For this scenario, we will only start looking for a new uptrend after the price breaks below the previous low at this point here. The uptrend confirmation at that point will be a breakout of the trend line alone. As you've just seen, Ecash has decided to follow the second scenario which I forecasted in my previous analysis. So today I'll follow up on that because we finally have a breakout and we will look at the next steps going forward. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is King, your host, and as always, today's video is for educational purposes only. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And if it's your first time in the channel and you happen to enjoy my analysis, then please make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Also share the video if you think it's worth sharing. Now let's go and look at the charts. Now before we start, I'll leave a link for you here at the top if you want to go and see the previous analysis and understand how did we reach the conclusion and manage to forecast that the breakout is going to happen at some point here. Now let's start with the most important thing that we have in this chart. And this thing is that the downtrend which started back in September of 2021 has finally come to an end. And we are not in a corrective pattern, we are not in a downtrend anymore, and now Ecash is moving to the upside again. Now this is mainly happening because Ecash has fulfilled my two conditions for reversal, which I usually talk about in all of my videos. The first condition was that the trend line of the downtrend was already broken. And if we draw this trend line, it started here at this point where the whole downtrend started, and it was retested a couple of times along the way. So the first confirmation that we needed was a breakout of this trend line, and this was fulfilled already at this point here. Now the second confirmation is that we are not forming lower highs and lower lows, and we have started forming highs and lows in the opposite direction of this downtrend. So if we take the trend line away and start drawing the corrective pattern that we had here, this corrective pattern had two important phases. The first one was here, and this was the second wave of the overall corrective pattern. And the second one was right here. It started at this point, and this was the top of it. So the overall corrective pattern included 5 waves, and these 5 waves have started right here at this point where they formed the first corrective wave. This was the first corrective pattern, or the second wave of the bigger structure. This was the third one, this was the fourth one, and this was the fifth one, and this was fulfilled because, as I said in my previous video, we have come to form a lower low that's lower than the previous one. And I said also on that video that we can start looking for an uptrend as soon as we break below this last low here. And as soon as we went below it, the price started moving up again. So if we take this one out, you can see that up till this point here, the price was trending down because this was the all-time high. This was a lower low, this was a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and this was the last low that we have formed, and this was the lowest point. But what we have right now, in addition to the breakout of the trend line, is that we have formed the first higher high in the opposite direction. So if we remove all of these drawings, this was the last high which the price has formed. And as you can see, the price has come and managed to do a breakout. So this is the first higher high on the opposite direction. And we can consider this as the second confirmation for a trend reversal. Now, of course, as you can see, this was rejected at this point, and we'll talk about why did this happen later on, but at least for now we do have an initial higher high. Now I know that someone may be asking, okay, how does this impact the bigger trend, and how do we know for sure that we are starting to go to the upside from here? I will answer and tell you, because the completion of this 5-wave corrective pattern, which we had throughout September till February of this year, has completed the second wave of the bigger structure. Because if we take this structure right from where it started at the very beginning, right here, this structure, the bigger structure, is an incomplete structure, because usually structures, they are either including 3 waves where they have an impulse, a correction, and then another impulse, or they have 5 waves where they have an impulse, a correction, a second impulse, a second correction, and then a 5th wave or a 3rd impulse. So if we compare the current structure that we have here to either one of these, we will see that this structure is incomplete, because what we have is an initial impulse and we have a correction that was just completed, which means in order to complete the most basic structure, which could be a 3-wave, so we will have to come and form a second impulse in this structure, and this impulse has to come and break the previous all-time high right here at this point. And of course this is only in the case if we're assuming that this is a 3-wave structure, because on the long run this could develop and become a 5-wave structure, which means we could go and break the top and then go on a long-term correction from this point here as well, and then come again and form another 5th wave. But in either one of these scenarios, we at least know for now that we have an additional impulse that should go from here to the upside. And that's why it's very important to have had all the 3 confirmations which we talked about: the breakout of the downtrend line, the highs in the opposite direction, and the completion of the corrective structure. Because all of these confirmations together imply that we are starting to have a new uptrend, and we would likely continue going up and break the previous all-time high in order to complete the bigger structure. Now let's zoom in again and remove everything away and start to take a look of what we should be expecting next from this point going forward. Now, as I said earlier, although we have formed a higher high right at this point, the price got rejected. And this is mainly because we have a key resistance level that stands right here at this point. And if we draw it, it's going to look like this. Let's change this to red because it's a resistance level. So as you can see, this level has been retested multiple times as both support and resistance. So first, when the price was trending down, it was retested here at this point as support. It was retested again here and here. So in total 3 points as support, and after the price broke below this level, it was retested as a resistance at this point and at this point, and the last time was just a couple of days ago. So now I'm sure you can understand why did we get rejected here despite forming a new higher high, because technically this was considered a breakout, and usually the price should shoot on breakouts. But because we are facing a major resistance level, the price took a small breathing space or a break in order to correct itself. And if we take a look also at the daily oscillator, we can see that the price was very exhausted also at this point, and it had to pull back and correct itself. So as soon as we see the red line move lower on the daily oscillator or even exit the overbought area, we will likely see the price come and shoot again to the upper side. So if this continues for a few more days or a week or two, at some point the price is going to do another retest and break outside this resistance zone. Now it doesn't matter how is this going to happen or how long it's going to take. So it could happen today or in a week time, it could go sideways or it could even pull back a little bit. But in either one of these cases, at some point, as soon as we take a breathing space and see the price exit the overbought area or become less overbought, at some point here we are going to see a breakout to the upside. Now, the most important fact here that we need to look at is that aside from this resistance zone that we have at this point, we don't really have any other major resistance zones on top of this one, because I tried to search and look like, alright, at this point here I found only 1 point, and right at this point here I found also one resistance, and here this was also 1 or 2 points. So we did not have any real resistance levels that was repeated multiple times in order to consider that the price may consolidate a little bit and stop near these zones. Now, what does this mean is that as soon as we get the breakout above this resistance zone here, we're most likely going to shoot all the way straight to the previous all-time high, because we don't have any major resistance levels. But before that, of course, we have to fulfill the first step, which is completing this pullback and then attempting for another time to break outside this resistance zone. Now, if we want to talk about targets, as I explained to you earlier, because this is an incomplete structure, so if we are going to get a third wave to the upside, this third wave, the least target that we should expect this one to come and break the previous all-time high. Now, if we break this previous all-time high, we could also expect a massive parabolic move to the upside from here. And this parabolic move could take the price really far away, because historically, if we look at this chart, aside from the previous all-time high, we don't have really any major resistance levels that could hold the price back. So as soon as we break above the previous all-time high, we could expect some major movement at this point. Now, of course, this is not going to be happening in a straight line. This is for illustration purposes only, because usually the charts move in waves. So we're going to get a pullback here, then we'll be moving up, then maybe we'll get another pullback and then move up, like right here near the previous all-time high, because that's usually a psychological resistance. We may see some consolidation here near the top, or even a pullback before moving up even higher. Or we could also do it in another way, where we break above this top and then come back for a retest and then continue going higher. So no matter how it goes, it will end up going in certain waves, and it's never going in a straight line. But these are more or less the scenarios that we could be looking at after this point. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and tell me, what do you think about Ecash? Are you holding this coin in your portfolio, and how far do you think it's going to reach from this point going forward? This was it for today, guys, and this was me, King. Until next time, stay safe and see you later.